Patrice, it's always fun to have a member of the Trump administration, Trump cabinet, joining us. And this time it is Kelly Loeffler, former senator of Georgia, of course, and now the SBA administrator, to join us. Good morning, Madam Administrator. Good to talk with you.
Well, good morning, Larry and Patrice. Always love being on with y'all.
The president made a huge announcement yesterday with regard to tariffs, and I think people always think that tariffs, that this deal with the UK is fantastic, I think, and I'm excited that I'm going to get some Boddington's beer without additional burden. But people think of this as like, Boeing's going to do this and Pfizer's going to be able to do that. But this affects small businesses, too. I've got to think that people who rely on the SBA are actually really interested in not just this deal, but what this portends in terms of future deals for international trade.
Absolutely. I mean, look what it does for our farmers. $5 billion for our farmers. It gives a level playing field to our small businesses who have been disadvantaged by having not just monetary trade barriers, but non-monetary trade barriers, regulatory and so forth, but particularly in our ag sector. I think aerospace was another one. As I've traveled across the country, not just this week, but since I've had the honor of being part of President Trump's administration representing our 34 million small businesses, the amount of aerospace production by small businesses in this country is huge.
Yeah.
So to be able to export that overseas, these are great paying jobs. These are people's communities that are being strengthened by these local manufacturers is critical, and it's in every sector. So it's a great leadership move on an important day. So really historic, and just is going to set the tone for more successes.
Yeah.
It's great to talk to you because this is the last couple of days of Small Business Week, and I work with independent women as well, and we really focus on women-owned businesses. We know they're growing and thriving, and we're excited that, the administration kind of is not enforcing a bad independent contractor rule that would impact self-employment. But I would love for you to talk about what you're doing at the SBA in terms of returning it to its actual focus and purpose. I think we saw a big expansion into, a lot of these different ideological areas around gender, race, all of this stuff. But now what is the SBA really doing to help small businesses and pushing aside the ideological stuff that frankly, is discriminatory when you think about it?
Absolutely, Patrice. And I'm glad you framed it that way because, look, I was a women-owned business. I had women-owned businesses. But what I cared about were the same things that men and people from all walks of life cared about: access to capital, getting the government out of the way, low taxes, deregulation. And what's great is that President Trump's agenda has everything that we need in that. We don't need to pick winners and losers. We don't need discriminatory actions. And unfortunately, the SBA was one of the worst offenders, not just on DEI, which I eliminated on day one. We're going to level the playing field so that everyone who qualifies can receive that access to capital, counseling, and government contracting. But it's also getting rid of the Green New Deal. I mean, sadly, they'd set up a green lending that lowered the standards for one type of energy, but not another. And let me tell you, small businesses were crushed by Joe Biden's lockdown on our energy resources that made it more expensive to run a business. So we're back. America dominance is coming back in terms of energy, and it's really exciting.
We're speaking with Kelly Loeffler. She's the SBA administrator. And, as the tariff policy sort of unfolds, we're going to see deals like what we saw yesterday. We're also going to see, as we've already seen, many corporations announcing that they're going to ramp up manufacturing here in the States. And as you just pointed out, that means the supply chain here in America is going to require a lot of small business manufacturers to help supply those larger manufacturers. And to that end, to be able to ramp up all that manufacturing, it's going to require loans. A lot of businesses who are going to say, all right, let's go, game on, we can manufacture here in America. They're going to need to be able to borrow. We're not seeing a whole lot of help from the Fed right now with regard to interest rates coming down as they should. How does the SBA step in there in terms of manufacturing loans?
Yeah, so the SBA typically has had a cap of $5 million on manufacturing loans. And as I've visited manufacturers, I'm seeing next-gen smart manufacturing using AI in their CNC machines. So we need to double the limit to $10 million for our 7A and 504 loans. So what we have in Congress is a bipartisan bill to support reshoring, onshoring, and made in America, because that engine is running. And I've talked to so many owners of manufacturers that said, I'm so tired of having people tell me we can't make it in America because we're doing it right now. We just need the government to support us. And tax policy is going to help that too. You're absolutely right. Interest rates should be coming down because President Trump, his policies are counterinflationary. Powell's only looking at tariffs. He's not looking at lower taxes, deregulation,
Yes.
lower energy prices, low core inflation. He's picking one political piece of this, of which fair trade, tariffs is only one part of fair trade. And so I think we need to make sure that we're looking at the full picture.
Awesome. Yeah, well, I'm just so glad you raised taxes really quickly, because I'm hearing floating ideas that as part of the tax negotiations, there may be an increase in taxes on, high-income earners, that top rate going back up. What would that do to small business owners who are pass-through entities, meaning they do their taxes on individual taxes, like raising taxes on those folks?
Yeah, it would be tough. Small businesses are the engine of our economy. They represent 99% of all businesses across this country. They create 2 out of every 3 new jobs. So clearly they're the economic engine, but they're also the people in our communities that support the local baseball team. They buy ads on local radio. They are the salt of the earth people that I encourage everyone to think twice before they pick a big business over a small business, in terms of their purchasing. But, I think, we have to ensure that small businesses are empowered and not taxed. And I'm really pushing on the 2017 extension, making that permanent, hopefully, and keeping taxes low for our job creators.
Kelly Loeffler, SBA for the Trump administration, and increasing those manufacturing loans from $5 million to $10 million. That's a huge, that's a game changer. As we start to ramp up the manufacturing force here in America. So we'll keep an eye on that. I know that's going to keep you busy as well. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Great day.